Hey, listen!
With the release for Fire Emblem Engage, Nintendo's marketing can now transition over to the next big event. And save for some smaller titles like Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe and Bayonetta Origins Sorasa and the Lost Demon, the next big thing from Nintendo is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, a game we've been waiting years for, a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, the best-selling Zelda game of all time, and for many, arguably one of the greatest games ever made. The anticipation for Tears of the Kingdom is high, and now, just 3.5 months away from its release as of this recording, we are on the precipice for a news blowout on Tears of the Kingdom, and also information on other things that need to come out during the springtime, leading Nintendo into the E3 period this summer. It is time for a February Nintendo Direct. When will this happen, and what announcements will it entail? Well, that's what we're talking about today. Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart, and today we're going into our actual February 2023 Nintendo Direct predictions. These are the official predictions, what I actually think is happening, and I think it is happening in February. So let's first get into the timing, and then I'll go over all the potential announcements I think we'll be seeing during this Direct. So yes, I believe it's actually happening in February. Now that Fire Emblem Engage has come out, it does not seem like there's really any more room left for a January Direct. That ship has sailed. It's now incredibly likely we see it in February. Now some may argue March, but let me tell you why it's far more likely to happen this February. So if you look at the history of Nintendo Directs, the most common time we've gotten a major Nintendo Direct in the beginning part of the year has been February. There are a couple exceptions. If we go back to 2018, we saw the general Nintendo Direct in March. However, this was the first full year of Switch, so I do think Nintendo was still trying to get a handle on things. And even then, we saw a Direct Mini in January to tide us over until they were ready for the bigger Direct in March. So with January basically being over and there being no time for a Direct announcement in January, there is no Direct Mini to tide us over. So February makes more sense. The only other time we've had an event in March instead of February was the pandemic year. All other years we saw a February Nintendo Direct. So considering that timing, that pattern, and also the straight up need to make announcements on different projects coming beyond this point, it makes sense to have a Direct in February. And even if we do have an E3 Direct in June, they're still going to need to make announcements about projects that are coming out around that time before that event. So the June, July releases likely will also be detailed in an earlier Direct, all suggesting the need for a February Nintendo Direct presentation. So when in February do I expect for this to happen? Well, there's likely going to be a Pokemon Presents at the end of the month as we usually see, so I think the Direct will happen before then. But then also Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe comes out on the 24th, and I think it will come out before then as well, because they may want to detail that game just a little bit more to get people more excited about that release. And usually we see a Direct in one of the first, second, or third full weeks of the month. So with all of that in mind, there are 6 dates that I have in mind that I'm fairly confident in saying that the Direct for sure will happen on one of these 6 days. So I believe the next big Direct will fall within either of these date ranges. Sometime between the 7th and the 9th of February, or sometime between the 14th and the 16th of February. That's when I believe we will see the Nintendo Direct. As for what time of the day, that is hard to say. But I do think this is going to be a large presentation that will be about 40 to 45 minutes long. It's going to be a major presentation that does have a lot to discuss, and I do think there will be a focus on Tears of the Kingdom. When they make the announcement, they will tell us that they're going to be focusing on Tears of the Kingdom, or at least say for details on spring titles, including Tears of the Kingdom. But with the timing of this Direct out of the way, let's now move on to what kind of announcements we could see during the show. So please keep in mind that the focus is probably going to be Tears of the Kingdom, so I am sort of thinking that maybe most of the show doesn't have a lot of big brand new announcements. There is the looming idea that there's going to be a new system coming out, if not at the end of this year, more likely sometime next year. So some people think that Nintendo's announcements are going to start to dwindle a little bit. And I'm not entirely convinced of that, but I am thinking Nintendo is going to be relying on a lot of remasters and DLC expansions, along with some quality releases mixed in to tide us over after Tears of the Kingdom until they're ready for their next big system, which I think we're talking about like a year window here, and there will still be some major releases. So to open up the show, I have two different ideas. It's one or the other, but I'm going to side with this one, and I could be wrong, and I'll tell you about the other a little bit later. So I think they're going to open things up with a relatively hype game that we may not be expecting that will catch our attention. Zelda's going to be saved to the end. I think the opener, call me crazy, is going to be F-Zero. Now, there are rumors that there's an F-Zero remaster in the works. A few different people that I believe to have legitimate information have suggested that something F-Zero is coming. Nate the Hate or Direct Feed Games, he has different aliases. He has said that F-Zero is coming and he thinks it's coming this year. There's also the well-respected and somewhat hostile Silex Hunter Twitter user who has shown to have some pretty good information and has teased that F-Zero is also on the way. And even a friend of the channel, Nintendo Prime, has heard that F-Zero is on the way as well from an independent anonymous source that he trusts. So a few different people that I trust have heard things. And I personally believe that F-Zero will at some point or another happen. But going beyond rumors, I do think an F-Zero remaster is relatively likely. I do think at some point or another Nintendo is going to dip back to some of their older IP. We've already seen that. They're going back to Metroid. There are the rumors of Donkey Kong. We know Advance Wars is done. They're just waiting to release it. So I think there's going to be others, and F-Zero I think is a likely candidate. Not to mention Nintendo is running out of Wii U ports, and as they move on to their next system, they're going to want to find something else that they can dip into that doesn't require as much effort, but still helps to fill up the lineup for the year. So dipping into the GameCube, Wii, and 3DS libraries is ideal because these are games that aren't too far behind from a technology perspective that with some quality remastering can be made into quality products for the modern day. Now, if they don't open up things with F-Zero, I think they say that for later on to the year, and instead they open things up with Pikmin 4, which would also be pretty exciting. It's something that we haven't gotten too much of a look of, that people may not be expecting to open up the show, but it's an internal Nintendo product that we've been waiting years for, and showcasing that early on will be a great way to start this direct. So one or the other, I believe both these things are happening this year, and I think both make sense for maybe a summertime, but I could see one or the other being pushed up to later, and that's why I'm picking F-Zero, because I can see Pikmin 4 being pushed into closer towards the holiday, so they can space out some of their bigger internal projects, because Zelda's coming out this May, Fire Emblem came out in January. Don't have Pikmin come out just a month or two after Zelda. Have something else, maybe a little bit smaller, come out for the summer period, and I think F-Zero is a good fit for that. After this though, we're going to be getting a lot of information on DLC. I wouldn't be shocked if this is the direct where people say, oh, it's Zelda and DLC. Similar to how the September direct was basically just the farming simulator direct, I think this is going to be the DLC/Zelda direct. So they're going to be talking about a lot of DLC. They are going to showcase Wave 4 for the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC. We're going to get those tracks. I think it's going to come out in March alongside Bayonetta Origins. They will also give us an update on Xenoblade DLC. It's still not yet the time to showcase the story scenario one, the big DLC we're waiting for Xenoblade. That's going to come out later into the year, but I think they will announce Wave 3, showcase the next character, and then they'll move on. Something that may get a bit of a trailer is actually the Mario Rabbids DLC, because there's actually two different story scenarios that are supposed to come. One for the summer, one for the holiday. The holiday one is for Rayman, so we're waiting on that. We won't get that yet, but they'll showcase the first story scenario DLC for that, and I think there will be a little bit of a trailer. I speculated if we would finally get the update on the paid DLC for Splatoon 3, but I'm thinking they're just going to make some smaller announcements about this game, and potentially they save the Splatoon 3 big announcement for E3, but I think there's still a decent chance that maybe they announce that paid DLC for Splatoon during this direct, but I'm a little skeptical. Also, they will talk about the next wave of DLC for Fire Emblem Engage. That's going to be supported for a while as well. The game just came out. They're going to want people to go back to that game, so definitely they're going to be talking about that at some point, talking about the next update for the game. Going beyond DLC though, they will talk about games coming out in February, March, and April. So we know we're getting Kirby in February, and at this point the game will just be about a week or two away, so they will bring that game up, maybe announce another little thing that we didn't know about this remaster. They will showcase a new trailer for Bayonetta Origins, and I believe they will announce a game for April. And this game is a game we've actually already known about for a while, and I think it's Advance Wars. I believe Advance Wars 1 to Reboot Camp will come out in 2023. I think if we wait much longer, the boat will have sailed on this game. So having Advance Wars come in April, where there's no other major releases, it's a calm before the storm with Tears of the Kingdom. They can have it still be about 3 or 4 weeks away from the release of Zelda. It's a good time for this smaller title to come out and find some success. Now, I know I said I was done with DLC, but I just talked about DLC things that we've already seen announced. I think there will be another new DLC wave that will be announced, and that will be for Nintendo Switch Sports. Nintendo Switch Sports has continued to have consistent sales. It is a pretty strong seller, and one of the main criticisms for Switch Sports is a lack of content. So they will rectify this with an announcement for DLC, and I'm going to go ahead and say that this DLC will be free if you have the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. And basically they're just going to be giving us new sports to play. What will be these new sports? Well, I'm thinking they're going to bring back boxing, they're going to bring back the jet skis from Wii Sports Resort, and maybe give us a new one. I'm thinking the new one will be, I'm just guessing and I'm probably wrong, but let's just go for it, water polo. How will that work? I don't know, but I believe there will be a Switch Sports DLC, and I think this is a good time to announce that. Going beyond Switch Sports, I think they will shadow drop GoldenEye. We've been waiting some time for this. I'm kind of surprised they haven't announced it yet. I think the reason they haven't announced it yet is likely just because they're saving it for a shadow drop announcement during a February Nintendo Direct. So I think they will announce this and then shadow drop it, give us something to be excited about immediately after the show. And at this point, we're winding down the presentation. There will be some third-party stuff throughout the presentation, some things that may excite you. I can't really even think what those are. I focus on strictly like Nintendo stuff, so I'm not sure, but we always get third-party announcements, and I'm sure there'll be some good things there that will help to fill up the Direct to make it seem even nicer than what some of these announcements may suggest. But I still think they're going to close out with some pretty hype announcements. As the penultimate thing, the second big thing before they close out the show, I think they're going to talk about Metroid. So I do not believe they're showing off Metroid Prime 4 during a February Nintendo Direct. No, I do not believe that. However, I do think we're going to see kind of a Skyward Sword HD situation. So if you remember in 2021, we were waiting for news on the sequel to Breath of the Wild. We still didn't even have the name for Tears of the Kingdom yet. And then Eiji Aonuma came out and told us that development was going well and more details would come later that year, and they did. They came at E3, but instead he talked about Skyward Sword HD. I think what's going to happen is that Kensuke Tanabe, the Metroid Prime 4 producer, is going to come out on stage. He's going to say Metroid Prime 4 development is going well, and they're actually planning more details to relay to us later this year, presumably E3, and then he will showcase the long-rumored Metroid Prime HD. And this Metroid Prime HD is not going to be a basic HD remaster. I'm thinking it's going to be something that's going to be quality. I'm thinking something along the lines of what we saw for Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, where there's going to be new character models and lighting and HD textures and maybe cool particle effects, because Metroid has some of that, and it's going to look really good. And they're going to announce it, and it's going to be coming out late summer. And with all of these announcements, Nintendo will pretty much have given us what we need for this summer. They will be positioned for E3 in June. They will have either Pikmin or F-Zero alongside Metroid Prime HD to support the summer months, along with the DLC expansion for Mario Rabbids. Maybe they do announce a Splatoon DLC to come out around that time as well, but the DLC along with those games will support the summer before they make any other major announcements in June for E3. And then they'll also have Advance Wars and Bayonetta Origins and Kirby to lead us into the release for May, which is the big one, Tears of the Kingdom. And they will close up the show with a fairly large segment on Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not saying it's going to be half the Direct like they did with Smash Brothers, but it's going to have a larger than usual segment. I think Eiji Aonuma is going to come out on stage and probably make some sort of allusion to how we've been waiting so long, and then he's going to present us a trailer. And this trailer is going to be a longer trailer than what we've seen so far for Tears of the Kingdom. It's going to be 3 to 3.5 minutes long, and this trailer is going to give us some significant gameplay moments. It's going to show us more of the story. There's going to be voice acting. It's going to be hype. Think basically something comparable to the trailer we saw back during the Nintendo Switch presentation, January 2017, that had us hyped, had us believing that Breath of the Wild is going to be the greatest game ever, and, well, I mean, for some it was. So it's going to be something really cool like that. And then after this trailer, Eiji Aonuma will show up again, and then actually take a few minutes to talk about some things that were showcased during the trailer, maybe make reference to the hand and some mechanics from there, maybe make reference to the new voice for Ganondorf, maybe they'll show that off. And there will be some details and some extended gameplay shown during these few minutes following the trailer. So at this point, we're talking about a 5 to 6 minute segment on Tears of the Kingdom, but that won't be it. He will then introduce a couple of amiibo of characters or versions of characters that are showcased during the trailer, and then they'll close things out with an announcement for a Tears of the Kingdom OLED. He'll highlight some cool details on that as well. At some point, he'll make some reference that even more details for Tears of the Kingdom will be coming in the not-so-distant future. I am optimistic that maybe we get a Treehouse or a Zelda Direct closer to release, but I don't think they'll announce that during this Direct. But still, there'll be a promise of more details coming soon, and they'll close out the show. And that's what I believe will be the February Nintendo Direct. Like I said earlier, I think this will do a great job of giving us the information we need for Tears of the Kingdom. Pre-orders will open up, there'll be the Amiibo, there'll be the Zelda OLED. They will have the games leading up to Tears of the Kingdom, and they'll have some games announced for the summer along with DLC. That way they have all the announcements out there and ready until their next big show this June. And I predict that people aren't going to be entirely satisfied if they don't care about Tears of the Kingdom. If you don't care about Tears of the Kingdom, you're going to say, oh, this is just a direct of DLC, whatever. I hate Metroid, or something like that. But I think if you're a Zelda fan, you're going to be really happy. And if you're prepared for DLC and things like maybe Pikmin or F-Zero, it's going to be pretty good. Now, some honorable mentions, because I know some people are going to be asking, what about Mario? What about Donkey Kong? Well, this is where I stand on that. The Mario movie is coming out in April. They're not going to showcase anything Mario or Donkey Kong until afterwards. Similar to how they've made us wait until after Fire Emblem Engage, they're not going to market anything Mario or Donkey Kong until after the Mario movie. But that opens things up for announcements in June for maybe something Mario or Donkey Kong related. So that's when I think we'll see those kinds of announcements. As for other things like maybe Kid Icarus, or maybe what's coming from the team that made ARMS and Mario Kart, or maybe the new IP from Monolith Soft, these things I think are happening, but I don't think they're happening this year. I think they are things that we're probably looking into 2024 or beyond for. If they finally announce the Kid Icarus Uprising remaster, I'm all for it. I'm simply not expecting it. There is something else to note. There is this rumor for a Baton Kaitos remaster. If that is truly legitimate, that will be announced during this Direct, but I'm skeptical it is. So we shall see. But those are my entire thoughts surrounding all the potential announcements we could see for a February Nintendo Direct this year. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, this is On Just Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.